So Linda has had a career in marketing. She's the one member who has. So she's going to give us some tips, new ways to market. Can I turn the light on or what? Is that all right? I will. I also would like to just show everybody. Is this okay?
Yeah, the screen's right.
Ernie has given me for a small fee this fabulous shirt. Oh, isn't that lovely? So any of us who would like to have a shirt, please see Ernie. I am advertising this for a very small commission. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to pull some of my thoughts together. I've been in the group for about 5 years. I really never understood why I was so involved with this group, except I just love everybody here. I feel like this is the most vibrant group, and everyone has something from their own spirit to send out into the world. And I love it. Here's a little picture of Cheryl. And the title of my talk today, should I move somewhere and do I have a hard stop? Do I have a hard stop? It's 11:30. I know you're in a rush.
A little after 12.
Okay. And do I have to move?
You don't have to move.
Okay. So I'm calling it Expand Your Readership, which is a twist on selling books. And I'll be talking about some marketing fundamentals. And the picture is of our very own Cheryl. And the thing that really strikes me is that Cheryl exudes a light, doesn't she? She exudes a light, and this is so attractive to readers who are walking by. She's blushing. Don't. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I also notice in this picture that I picked up from her Facebook page that if you see how she's put her books together, she has a continuum of types of books. So she has Murder on the Rhine, and her book about her trip in Bermuda, and all her travel books and her murder mysteries. So there's a phrase that people in the investment community use, and they talk about lines, not dots. You want to make, you've heard that before, right? That you want to have every touch point have a continuum of some kind. And Cheryl has done this in how she has presented her books for her shows. Cheryl has been going to shows now and festivals for a number of years, and I'm guessing that you learn. You learn how, you're nodding, you learn how to connect with an audience, and you learn what spurs people. And I remember Cheryl saying to me a time, excuse me, if anything I say is not exactly right, you can, write to me or throw something. But I remember something like her story about being in an appliance store to buy something, and whatever it was, a washing machine or something. And the young lady took her credit card and said, "Cheryl Payton?" Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? You're Cheryl Payton?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because Cheryl is known now. People follow her books. She's learned how to do that. She has really learned to develop leadership. And Bill actually said, being out and about with Cheryl at various events, he's also seen, I've heard from Bill, people say, "You're Cheryl." So you have established a certain celebrity over time by virtue of taking this view of supporting readership. The second, slide is talking about the three things I will discuss today. There are three things that I believe are the fundamentals. Time and consistent effort. Decide what you're building on, and I'll talk more about that in a moment, but I'll talk particularly about Jim Hartzell, because I'll in a moment show you a slide that came from Jim's website, where my understanding of Jim's work is that he's building on a long and devoted process of supporting adolescent boys and girls here in East Tennessee. And he writes beautifully about these folks in his Boone series. And it leaves me feeling like I know what he stands for, know what you're building on. You know, my book on disability awareness over there is something that came from my seeing people talk about my mother when she was in a wheelchair, and I'd take her to a wonderful restaurant in New York, and the guy would come over with his towel over his arm, and he would speak to me and say, "Will she have something to drink?" And I could feel my mother's embarrassment. And it led me on an enormous journey. It was never the book. I developed all of this training. It still is being delivered in New York. I put hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money in the basic research. And I had saved a lot. So it was a fraction of my net worth. Well, that's all gone, thanks to 2008. But the point is that I think it's important to know what you're building on. Why do you get up in the morning? Why are you doing this? It's not to sell books. Sure, selling books is important. It's not your why. And I think we often don't really know our why. We think we do. Why did you marry? Why did I marry Alan? You think I had any idea? You know, why did you become a lawyer? Why did you become a teacher? The why evolves over time. And I think it's really important for us as writers to know our why. And the third point I'm going to talk about is consumer language. And I know Angela and I have talked about this. And this is developing an ear for consumer language. What are they saying about your book? What do you hear? I had about 15 years working at a mental health agency in New York because my paid work had me flying all around America, and I felt I didn't have a home base. And so I really wanted to feel like my home had something that I cared about. And it was a fabulous experience as a clinician for all those years. And I remembered one guy came in to do a talk for us. It was very heavy on training. Guy came in to talk to us, and he was a therapist that had been in business. And he had made his money and wanted to contribute. That's not an uncommon path for people. And this man talked to us, and I can see him in my mind's eye, talking to us who were counselors. And he said something that he's come to understand is that therapists are deaf. A person will say again and again something embedded in their relationship with their mother, or something troublesome in their work choice, or something. And with your, back in the day, you used to have your 50-minute hour. You might have to hear it for 3 months until it finally dawns on you what you heard. And so I think that listening for consumer language is something you develop, and you're probably deaf, just as I was, but it's really worth it, and I'll drill down on that a little bit. So those are the 3 points. Another point I'd like to make is about the publishing industry. This is a brief talk, so I'm not going to drill down, but the publishing industry is unrecognizable. Kay is smiling at me because you know. It's unrecognizable from what it was 20 years ago. It's unrecognizable. And I'm holding up here a book. I didn't realize, Cheryl didn't know about this book. It's called Above Hallowed Ground. My brother was a detective in TARU, the Technical Response Unit, on 9/11. And when the first plane hit, my brother, just doing reconnaissance, went from his home over to Floyd Bennett Field and got in a helicopter. And he went into the air that day. Well, of course, by 5 o'clock I couldn't spit. I thought he was dead. He was in the air the entire day, and he worked for an entire year taking these photographs he took them from the sky. He devoted himself very much to cataloging what happened that day. And of course, that's more than 20 years ago now. But he had tremendous marketing support from Penguin Books. Penguin was a publishing house then. In the chaos of New York of that year, following that terrorist attack, there was a body of people who knew how to promote a book. And they surrounded my brother. And I would be down there in New York. I went to the studio when he was on a radio broadcast with Terry Gross, NPR. What was the guy's name? Phil Donahue. My brother was on the Phil Donahue show. And I said to my brother, I only have one brother, there's only the two of us. I said, Dave, you're going to need some media training. It was chaos. There was no time for media training. And he was just fabulous, so talking so much from the heart. I really had a bird's eye view of publishing in New York in 2001, 2002. It has gone. We are on our own as authors, the vast majority of us. So, any comment or question, or just carry on? You'll love our stories. That came from Jody Sims. When I first joined here 5 years ago, if Sam watches this little video on our website, Sam, you and me and Jody, and I believe Randall, we sat together coming up with a new logo for our group. And that was it. You'll love our stories. And storytelling, in all my years of being in business, it's really come to the top. Storytelling and its motivational power is enormously important. And we are storytellers. What are we building on? We're building on our storytelling skill. I remember Jerry standing here in this very room, writhing on the floor, saying, I feel like I tell my stories to a closet. I can't, how do I get my word out? So I'll tell you 2 stories. Backwards. In 1980, I was a young woman, and I went to work for the division, Ragu Foods division of a major company in Greenwich, Connecticut. And at that time, Ragu had been acquired by this corporate giant, and there was one, what's called a facing. That's what faces do in the supermarket. They had one item, and that's the bottle. I pulled it up off the internet. Ragu spaghetti sauce, one bottle. Today, I took a ride over to Ingles, and I took a picture of the aisle for red sauces. And that's the aisle. From 1980 to today, there's an entire aisle of red sauces. And, you know, I was on that journey then and for many years, so I really have a deep embedded belief in the power of time and consistent effort. And what I'm preaching here, I'm in the Southwest, so I know about preaching. What I'm preaching here is consistent effort under these fundamentals. Who are you? What do you stand for? Why do you do this? Sure, selling books is important. That's not why you do it. Something else is going on here. What is it pointing at? That your interest is mysteries, or your interest is you know, not avoiding insurance calamities, or your interest is disability advocacy. What is that pointing at for you? Or for me today, my interest is in writers. You know, Jerry's moment of writhing on the floor here has stuck with me. Just like that therapist years ago who said, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, counselors, therapists, you're deaf. The therapist is hearing the most important thing, and it's just going right over your head. Be humble. Kay and I had lunch together, and she embodies in our group time and consistent effort. And Kay learned over years. She told me the number, I didn't remember. She did multiple queries over 10 years to get a publisher. I had to look up what a query was.
468. No, I got an acceptance.
468 query letters. How long did it take her to do one query letter? And the 460, as I promise you, didn't look the same as the 110. She was learning all along the way. And you began to get this heavy into your work, your identity as an author around 2014. That's a long time after my brother's book. By that time, the publishing industry that I knew when Penguin was a huge publishing outfit in New York that really backed up my brother, it was disintegrated by 14.
Well, there was still a Penguin. There is no longer a Penguin because Random House scoured and fired all the authors and most of the top earning editors.
And you can bet in 2014 it didn't look like it looked in 2001.
Yeah.
So I'm just leaving you with, if you feel frustrated, there's a good reason for that. Okay, and there are emotional barriers why you don't keep pushing forth when you get crickets. I get reviews, but nothing happens. Nobody does a review. All the things that don't work. And it makes me think about Willie Loman, Death of the Salesman. Oh, you know, I didn't sell anything today. I went to the festival and I didn't only sell 2 books. It starts to wear on you, which is why what I'm selling here is a different approach. And that is to build readership what we see from Kay, her queries, over 400, substantially over 400, finally led to a publisher. You should talk to her about it, because the publisher finally led her to really good people to surround herself with on how to have the craft of writing shine out of her that she's developed over all these years, to her polished instincts, to hearing language, to knowing how to connect. And that led to being a national best-selling author today. Not the baloney that we hear on the internet where people, some poor guy will say, take my class, I'll have you be a best-selling author in 30 days. I say, I'd do anything to lose weight except diet and exercise. 3 Agatha Awards. Look at her awards. Her books, the way she designed them. Choke, smoke, broke, stroke. Don't you think if I read one, oh boy, another book from my friend Kay George. Of course, it's not your name, but let me go on here. I'm watching my time. I know Bill's got other things to do. Consistent effort guided by marketing fundamentals, not try this, what works, that didn't work, try this, try that. It's exhausting. And there are emotional barriers that keep us from wanting to do the next thing. What are you building on? 2 stories, Country Time, Lemonade, and Jim.
Those are unconnected, though.
We don't know. Wait a minute. Let's see. We've got a story here. We're storytellers. So in 1977, the Kool-Aid plant had some excess capacity. And I was a market researcher that I was quite slim. I could still wear high heels. I was young, Linda, and I said to the big boss, who said, let's invent an adult-powered soft drink. And I was on the founding team of Country Time Lemonade in 1977. And what did I say? Yes, sir. And it was very clear what the point was, to use the extra capacity in the Kool-Aid plant. We knew what we were pointing at. I have my 74th birthday this year. It's so cool. It's so cool. And what was I, 27? And I'm still at it. Time and consistent effort. Today, Country Time Lemonade is the largest selling lemonade sold worldwide. I mean, I went and looked and played around with what's available under the Country Time brand all over the world. You know, we have people here who travel all over the world, corners of Asia, the Himalayas. They go into their store, there's Country Time on them. Really? Right? And what is it? You know, my whole life has been in marketing. Sugar, flavor, and marketing. It's nothing. You know, looking at, there are a number of members here that I don't know well, but we have a lot of people in this room now who understand psychology and motivation way beyond my understanding. So I'm hoping to have help from others who understand things that I don't know about, but I know about this. You take nothing and you wrap it in good marketing and you got something. I looked at Jim's website, and he has this beautiful, you have this beautiful, beautiful video. And in your video, what you said in your talk about yourself on the AGT website is, a career in working with teenagers on the fringes of society made me sensitive and appreciative of the complexities of character and the struggles, both inner and outer, that we all struggle with. That's your mission. Through that Boone series, that video is incredible. And the tagline at the end, Jim is the man who gave a voice to the unheard. Are you going to buy his book? I bet you are. Is that what this is all about? Bill Gates said, we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 10. And he's been around a minute. 3 stories about consumer language. So I finally heard consumer language for the Rolaids brand. And it was how I bought my first house. You know how much money I made? My market research consultancy, one of the things I was doing is I was running focus groups all around the country for Rolaids. And I would hear people in Atlanta. You know, they sent us from New York to Atlanta because they thought it was the South. It was never the South. It's not the South now. But that's what they thought. And I'd hear all over the country people say, I keep my Rolaids in my truck. I ate too much, so I ate my Rolaids. And people kept saying, I eat my Rolaids, I eat my Rolaids. And finally, it dawned on me. This is really important. People think about it as food. It was this chalky white tablet. And so my work back then led to the introduction of fruit flavors beyond the existing chalky category. And if you go to the store now, you're going to see they're all fruit flavors. It's all about flavor. It's all line extended out. Because I heard something. Bobby is incredible. Her ear for consumer language. I'll just keep pushing through here because we want to get Bill out of here. But talk to Bobby and see how she sees the world and how she sees consumer language. She told me an amazing story about doing a personal talk. Personal talks are so valuable. You learn so much. And she went in doing this talk with people who she expected to be of the Vietnam generation. Men who she expected to have probably been in Vietnam. And this is many years later. And then she comes to find out none of the guys in the room were really Vietnam people. They had been farmers. I know I'm wrecking the story, but I just want to make the point. She immediately pivoted and started focusing on the sexy stuff. You know, Bobby, again, like me, comes out of business where you were hearing language and figuring out how to act on it. It doesn't happen in 2 minutes. It's acquired. Listen for consumer language. And behind the smile, I always tell Bobby, I buy copies of this for members of my family. It's incredible. And her gift for connecting with what an author is really interested in is fabulous. And, you know, did you two sell any books when you were talking together about the editing of the books? You weren't selling books. What you were doing is creating them. You know, you were working on the fundamentals for the readership that you were expanding. Brenda is away now, Brenda Sellers. And Brenda embodies The Woman Never Stops. She's out right now in California. She was on Facebook a couple of days ago in an M&M's outfit. She's dressed as an M&M on Halloween. And she says, if you read my book, little message there, if you read my book, you would know I love M&Ms. But you know what she's pitching? Because this girl's always pitching something. What she's pitching is a sponsorship by M&Ms. She's always out there. Is that why she writes? Wait a minute. Go on her Facebook page and you will see a testimonial. I picked up this picture from her website, from Facebook. And this lady, in a little video that Brenda shot, said, my sister suffers from an extreme form of PTSD. Myself, therapist, even my pastor could not get her to see the brighter side of life, but what turned it around for her was your book. Now she sees she can turn lemons into lemonade. That's why she writes. Calamities of a clumsy businesswoman. So, that's me in my sword. Because 3 times a week I go to Wallung Kung Fu, where I practice Tai Chi. We also work on sword form. And you can really slice through difficulties using marketing fundamental pathways to success built on this stuff. And so what I am offering, what I've cooked up, and it's only for AGT because I'm going to experiment with this with AGT, and I'm going to experiment with this with another group of healers that I work with and that I know well, that I've known for a long time. Because healers also have a heck of a time with marketing. You know, people who know things like excellent, I'm looking at the time, I'm getting nervous, but I'll be done in 3 minutes. People who know things like acupuncture, makes a tremendous difference for the world. They're not good at marketing. You know, if you go to a festival, you'll always see a chiropractor say, come and I'll adjust your back, because that's what people know. So what I'm cooking up here for you is a way that we can get together for 1 hour. Here, you can pass this. It's my sales piece. Here, pass this around. Here, I'll give some to my esteemed assistant, Richard. Richard and I met, and we were at dinner with some of our friends from St. James Episcopal, and he's really interested in being a writer. Recently retired. I'm like, wow, cool. Wow, let's talk. So what I'm thinking about is to have a 1 hour, very low cost meeting. And in the meeting, I am going to review, and I made just some rough notes. I'm not handing this out, but I have several pages here of all the things that we have learned about when we come here to the meetings. And what I'm going to do is run through these. I don't know exactly how I'll do it. I mean, I'm going to keep talking to people, but I'm going to run through all these kind of different things. I'm calling it a 30-day challenge. What has Victoria Winfred done on Puppy? What has Leoma done on this keyword thing? That is very, very rich. What has Brenda done on her Facebook? What has Bobby done? She has tremendous stories on community service where she's learned things. Randall was just at the Gatlinburg trade show. I went there 4 years ago with a friend of mine. It's amazing what he does there, and he does so much work. People absolutely pay attention to Randall. Oh, I can't wait to learn from Randall. We have recently heard. Patricia Crumpler is not here today, but Patricia wrote, if you have looked, a wonderful piece on different awards and what she gets. So what we're going to do is for an hour, I'm going to run through a bunch of different things you could do and say, pick 3 to 5 things, and I'll be structured about it. Pick 3 to 5 things, and just play around with some different things in the next 30 days. And then come back in 30 days. We're making it an accountability group. Come back in 30 days, see how you did. And what I know, there's a guy, his name, he's the guy who wrote Atomic Habits. Very, very good work on how to build a habit. Find new ways to build readership. Not spend a lot of money, $20. Not spend a lot of time, an hour. Not spend a lot of time in the months. But you're going to say, uh-oh, I got to go to the meeting again in December. I better have something done. You know, and that's how it works, I think. And then come back, and so we'll do, I'm done. We'll do a series of, I think, 3 months to form a new habit, to break the cycle of Willy Loman. Oh, I only sold 12 books at that. And feel more like, you know what, the bricklayer, you know, a guy walks down the road, sees somebody got a job, he says, wow, what are you doing? I'm a bricklayer, I'm laying bricks. Goes down a little bit farther, says to the next guy, what are you doing? I'm building a castle. That's all, thank you.